Fabulous. We're live. I decided I'm going to keep it at this angle, you know. I just don't care about the video. I know it's mostly the audio, and this is like, I don't know, 2 foot closer to my face, so hopefully the audio is better. I want to introduce 2 things right off the bat. I'm from Texas. Okay, so, and I'm trying to speak eloquently. Like, I don't want to sound like a fucking dumbass hick, you know, but not only am I like from Texas and Oklahoma, essentially, or whatever, no specifics needed. But I'll just take these off. I forgot they were on actually. The Army sent me to Louisiana for a year and a half, something like that. And I really caught on to the accent, you know, like the Louisiana, Houston, I suppose Mississippi type of shit. Yeah, so like I sound like a fucking dumbass hick, and like I'm like, and I don't know. I actually have to have this on the side of my table here. It's fucking nuts. It's more in the middle or whatever. Well, now I decided, you know, I hate it. I hate it all. I hate it all. I want it back up where it was last time. So I mean, you have to bear with me for a little bit until I figure out, you know, my preferences and the way, because a lot of this is just, you know, I want to just talk and see what I suppose what that, you know, like what the best way to put my ideas forward is. Word economy is like a thing too that I want to get towards. And anyways, so I have 2 things that I kind of want to start with, and it's the first one is I've got on Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson. This is from a month ago. I've seen it. This would be the 3rd time if I was actually watching it, but I'm just kind of like reading the subtitles and seeing, you know, where, you know, if there's anything that I want to bring up. And of course, you know, the main thing that I want to bring up from bringing this up is, I think Ted Cruz, it said it was 53 or 54 years old. And Gavin Newsom is 57 or 56, I think. I literally looked it up 5 minutes ago, and, you know, something you'll have to realize is I do have 3 weaknesses, and I think it's important to identify your weaknesses within yourself. And it is cold. I am a little whiny bitch when it is cold outside. Okay. I do not have a lot of fat on me. I'm not a big guy, but I have no insulation, and I'm a bitch about the cold. And I also have like this long neck. You know what I'm saying? So like as soon as some wind gets there, it's over with for me. And I suppose a 4th one would be that I'm a mumbler. That's kind of my point. Like I will mumble a lot, and I'm so sorry for that. And I should remember to project, but typically I'm talking to people 2 or 3 feet from me, you know? So whatever. And my second weakness would definitely be GPS directions. Like if you give me a map and a compass and ask me to land nav, like per army, I know how to do that. But if if you're giving me like, go up to a whole fucking First Street and take a left at at the big it's the Lakeway Street, and it has the big tree or like shut the fuck. I've already lost you as soon as you started trying to give me directions. Like, give me an address, give me numbers and a street, and I will type it into the GPS. Okay, I'm going 10 miles. Like, I don't need your hand by hand fucking wagon carriage directions to get there. Like, just give me the address and I'll look it up. And if it's not on there, then that's their fucking problem, and they can continue to have their toilet stop up because I'll never get there. My third is my memory, and I really do have like a dog shit ass memory. And this is before I started smoking weed or anything. Like, just ever since I was a child, I've had just a horrid memory, and so my first point here, and the memory, I actually brought that up because I completely forgot my second thing of the first two things I brought up. But the first one is Ted Cruz is younger than Gavin Newsom, and I think that's a very interesting. People with this kind of money and power and influence, because Ted Cruz may not be a billionaire, and neither might be Gavin Newsom. Okay, but that's what I'll write it down. Charm. Okay, so this time I got it. I know in the first episode I completely I have to figure out how my mind is going to go and when I need to write notes when I'm trying to speak to nobody. Like if it's my friend AJ or if it's my dad or something or my granddad, like I know how to speak to them, and you know what I mean? Like I want to enunciate things. I want to explain things. I don't want to be too vague, even though like the first episode, it was essentially, and I also noticed that apparently I love the word essentially. Okay. And it's because it's better than some dumbass kid, I guess, saying like, oh, like this, like this. I'm going to say, essentially it's like this instead of like, duh, like this. So for better or for worse, I love the word essentially. So essentially, my 2 points were Ted Cruz. He has so much. These people. Okay. Woo. I know. Obviously, with money, you can buy hair products. You can buy Botox. You can buy houses. You can buy this, that, whatever. You can buy anything with money. Everything's bought with money. But if you're a senator that has to hide your money, or a congressperson, and you do insider trading, okay, and you have to make sure that your taxes reflect that you only get paid $200,000 a year at maximum, which that's actually, is the president 200 or 400? I can't remember, but either way, a congressperson or a Senate member is less, and they have to report that they make less than $500,000 a year. But then all of a sudden, Nancy Pelosi is a fucking multimillionaire, and so is Bernie Sanders, and so is Ted Cruz, and like you name it, they all do the same thing. And hang on, that has to be out. JC baby. It's interesting that so these people, if you have a certain amount of power, okay, you don't have to pay for haircuts. If you're Jeffrey Epstein, you get handed a $50 million home in Brooklyn. Okay. So like, or whatever the fuck in New York City. So if you have power, you don't have to have money. Like people would just do things for you, and people and connections or whatever. And so Ted Cruz He might not be a billionaire with a B, but he can probably do anything with his face and with his hair that he wants to. And very recently, he grew a beard. He has never had a beard. He's been clean shaven. And now all of a sudden he is salt and pepper. And I would say it's like his beard is like a 80% salt and his hair is like a 20% salt. The rest being pepper. Gavin, and he's like fucking, he's a fat pussy ass bitch. If you want me to really just like throw my personal opinion there, but he's got a little double chin and he looks like a fucking Republican. Okay, that's the main point. And he does all this and like these Obama stutters, which are from Reagan. And Tucker, you know, like, and it's the stutter is only to just like Obama. Like, look, Ted Cruz is not good at this. Obama is, but look at him, and anytime he's trying to make a point where he sounds like smart or whatever, like he starts to do this tactic that's stuttering, and it's that way he takes up 20 seconds in a phrase rather than 8 seconds, and he says the same amount of substance, but he like will stutter and pause and sound very. Here we go. You know what? Before I even do it, I want to like get back because I don't give a. I'm not going to pay attention to Tucker and Ted Cruz or whatever. My main point of bringing that up was that Ted Cruz, he's a liar. And so is Gavin Newsom, but they both appear to be what their constituents want. And so Gavin Newsom is older than Ted Cruz, yet has less salt and pepper. And both these people have enough money and power and influence to be able to do whatever they want with their fucking faces and their hair. So Ted Cruz is more fake than Gavin Newsom. At least Gavin Newsom, like, you can see right through his bullshit. Like, Ted Cruz he's pretty slick. And a lot of these people are pretty slick, but they're only slick when you get into like their knowledge, you know, and their knowledge. And damn, I wish I could go back because I actually completely blanked about what I was talking about and everything else. But I guess I could get right into my notes. So to wrap up like the last episode, I guess like, you know, my accent, I'll sound like a dumbass, and these people have all these speech points and the way that they speak and what have you. And I don't know. I just hate them. So to wrap up my last like episode, you know, I was pretty tired, and still this episode is true. Like I'm trying to just kind of explain my thought process before I start getting into my thoughts. You know, hopefully that makes sense. So that's why the first episode, I mean, it took me an hour and 15 minutes to get through a 6-minute episode or a 6-minute video, you know, and I had a third of a page of notes then, and I have a full page this time, and I feel like I want to get into all these points instead of and like I'm trying to say essentially is I'm going to probably branch off a whole lot still. Like I said, these first few episodes are going to be half-ass in the sense of I know that I can do better. You know what I'm saying? So, but I have to like consolidate my points and hear myself, because sometimes, you know, if you say something out loud, like, you realize it's either true or retarded. And so sometimes I just have to say things out loud and check them back and whatever. So, yeah. So, I'm into my first point. So to wrap up the last episode, other than the intro shit, like that 6 minute video, the entire point is essentially like the argument will be, as far as I've seen, it will be, oh, America was founded on immigrants and it's the melting pot of civilization, yada yada yada. Okay, yes, but the people that assimilated 20 years ago and before, not even that. I'm just going to say that in the beginning, okay, in 1790, like a few years, like the attitude, and I'll cross this one off too. The attitude of Americans was essentially Protestant, and I've been growing closer to homeboy JC, Jesus Christ. And I'm like, I'm actually really well versed in like Buddhism, like the Taoist Buddhist, Hinduism, the Bhagavad Gita and whatever the fuck, and then the Quran, the Torah, which is the Old Testament essentially, and the Bible. And then I also know about the Talmud and a couple other fucking things, like I actually, probably the best thing I know, because I'm just a history nerd, is about the Greek gods. I know probably the second most about the Scandinavian gods, like the Norse, like Thor and Odin, but I'm interested recently as of today, like this morning, somebody said the American attitude is Protestant, and I would like to look more into that, and that's all I'm going to say about that, really. We'll get to that next episode. I'm going to write a little note next. But immigrants before, whenever they used to assimilate, it's a word. That means like the melting pot. I heard it put this way one time. The melting pot is, it doesn't mean that there's a whole new dish. You know what I mean? Like the main protein in the stew of the melting pot, is Americanism. And Americanism is, we are not a democracy. We are a federal. I'm sorry. What is it? We are a constitutional republic. Something like that. But we're a republic. We're not a democracy. Okay. And democracy is like everybody gets a vote, and republic is, we're a nation of 50 states, and these states rule themselves and come to a general consensus as a nation on only certain matters, on only major certain matters. And that means war. That means, come on. And Abraham Lincoln, everybody reveres this guy. The Civil War was not fought on because of slavery. It was fought because of states' rights. And I'm glad it happened. But Abraham Lincoln was the first authoritarian president in our history because he declared war on his own constituency, and so we're just so far off of base, from where we originated from, and people like to just muddy the waters of those beliefs. But immigration used to mean assimilation. Okay, ASSIMILATION. Okay, assimilation, and that means that if you come here, you wave the American flag, not the Mexican flag. Okay, that means that we don't care who comes here, but we're not going to be playing on the loudest speakerphones across the entire city of wherever we're at. We're not going to play the Islamic call to prayer 5 times a fucking day. I'm not going to hear that in my fucking country, actually. And that's just the attitude. It's like you have a country, several countries that you can do that in. And in my country, once again, the first to say fuck you to a king or a dictator and even have a vote that was worth a fuck. Like, yeah, Roman, whatever, they had a Senate and this and that. The Senate was full of nothing but elites. So it's like you would have nothing but Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates making the decisions for the rest of your people. It was worse, okay? The concept of a city-state used to be a thing because of how powerful they were. Rome, the Roman Empire, was not like the American Empire, which is just a thing, okay? We have 900 plus bases across 100 plus countries. It's like we're an empire. The Roman Empire Rome was a city. It was fairly independent from, to say the least, from Italy. You know what I mean? Like, if Italy was even a fucking country, then I don't know. We'll see. I'll have to Google it. But immigration used to mean assimilation, and that means you wave the American flag, not your fucking foreign country flag. And that means that we're not going to hear the call to prayer here. You have the freedom of religion. That's why America is so great. You have the freedom of religion, but our society dictates that we're not going to hear the call for prayer over speakerphone 5 times a fucking day. I'm not going to hear it. Okay, in my country, I'm not going to hear it. And if I do hear it, like, that's when like true radicalization, I guess, occurs. But that was kind of my whole thing, is like this Mehdi Hassan guy. Even if he's an American citizen, like, he is clearly not assimilated to our beliefs, and he doesn't care. Like, and if anything, if we're somewhat more the wiser, we know that he's a CIA op or a Mossad op or a Iranian op. Like, fuck out of here. It's like, clearly immigration is not good for the country. We've seen where it's gone in the last 10 years, and it's very obvious. So if you're speaking the opposite of this, then it's clear where you stand, buddy. So we'll cross that out. I'll get right into this. Once again, I started this just to run my fucking mouth, okay? And I'm never, ever, ever going to claim that I know more than somebody else or this and that or whatever. But I absolutely will claim that, like, as a grassroots fucking plumber American, like, I know where my generation is. Okay. I'm living with my parents, if you're curious. As are most of the people, no matter how hard they're working or whatever, in this country in my age group. And that's what won Trump the vote. And that gets into this Epstein thing that I'm about to talk about, is that, and I'll start it with Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens, and I'll probably be 20 minutes on this. I hate that I will be, but it's there's too many details here. So Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens, they both are like one of the, they're definitely top three, depending on your ordering. And number 3 is Tucker Carlson. Recently, but there's and then there's Dave Smith, who's my boy. There's very few people that are really like pressing this Epstein thing, that, and I should say very few people that are media significant, and obviously I'm not, but I'd like my thoughts on record or whatever. But Dave Smith, he's a big one too. And if our entire government is under blackmail by people that are loyal to a foreign government, China, Russia, whoever, we're not getting our country back until we've solved that issue. So that's why so many people are like obsessed with this Epstein thing. And Nick Fuentes and Candace, Candace finally had him on, and she, these people were one of the only ones asking the question about, how much does I don't know, they call it the JQ, the Jewish question, but how much influence does Israel have over our government? That's the question. And it's a lot, if you're curious. But that's what most people expected them to talk about. And instead, Candace attacked Nick over, you can go watch whatever, but I'll leave it at that. And it's annoying because they didn't talk about the things that everybody thought that they would talk about. They didn't talk about Brigitte Macron. They didn't talk about Epstein. They didn't talk about Israel. She talked about, you hate Jew. Is that why you hate all Jews? Oh, is that, so you hate interracial marriages or whatever? It's like, and it was an hour, or whatever. And it just sucks because that's not what people wanted them to come together and talk about. Okay. They wanted them to talk about everybody is talking about Epstein right now. And it's all the way from it. Like I said, if our whole government is blackmailed by somebody like Epstein and some foreign country, we're not going to get anything. We're not going to get our economy fixed. We're not going to get the immigration issue fixed. Nothing. Okay, so this is not going through. And that's why it's been under such heat for 3 weeks now. I think it's like July 22nd, and this has been going hard in the news from Candace, Nick, Tucker, and Dave Smith. And the fact that Candace like throttled Nick like that is just pathetic. Be right back. All right. I've decided I'm gonna run through my list like as fast as possible, and give me some much needed rest after today's very long day of being outside all day. It's interesting that the closer I get to God recently, the more rage I feel about stuff like this, and maybe I'll be able to explain that at some point personally. But like, I just get so mad. I should like inside, I don't like act out or anything, but I get so mad like hearing about it at this point. It's like, okay, so when are we gonna do something? Like, golly, I'm so tired of all this crap, all this transgender, all this woke, all this fucking gay pedophilic crap, like, tuh, we're $1 trillion in credit card debt or credit card debt. That's something to be spoken about. Okay, we're $36 trillion debt income as a country, and the people, 330 million people combined, are like $1 trillion in debt. That's a lot in just credit cards. I know that my sign notes are very bad, but I think twice tonight I like nailed it. I wrote down something and remembered to say it. I guess I'll just, you know what? I'll just end with this, and I'll decide what I want to talk about on the rest of my notes tomorrow. Yeah, the keep it simple, stupid thing is also like Tucker in his talk with Daryl Cooper. he basically says like, and it's the same thing with Ted Cruz. Like he was like, it was a tough interview, and he grilled him like and made him look like a fool. All those things, but like, why be cordial in any sense at all? Like the best example from Tucker as well is that he's talking to Charlie Kirk and he's like, oh well, yeah, the worst person in Washington is Lindsey Graham, but he's just such a charming individual. I love him personally. And it's dude, Tuck, dude, if you know that you're fit, and he was just talking about this with Derek Cooper. That's what's so hypocritical. It's like, oh, if you know, for someone that you know that has like all these pictures and portraits of like child pornography and demonic whatever in their house, like you'd be like, oh, I don't want to hang out with that person. Why do you say that Lindsey Graham is even an ounce of a good person? You know damn well that the only way or the only reason that he's being a good person, quote, quote, is because he's being fake as fuck and a politician and an actor. An actor, okay? God damn, like, why would you ever, like, if you saw Lindsey Graham in person and you knew all the things he's done, Tucker knows more things that he's done than I have, 100%. Why would you not on sight, anytime you ever saw him, knock a fucking tooth out of his head? At minimum. Like, what are we talking about? Why are you saying, oh, Lindsey Graham's charming, he's a good person? What are we talking about? So it just drove me nuts a little bit. Like, and he was somewhat cordial with, Ted Cruz once he finally got him roped in on his own podcast. But once you get him roped in, why continue being formal? Why not be feral? You know what I'm saying? Like, be feral. Like, you have been there. If they walk off, that tells you everything you need to know. You don't even have to do the next hour of interrogation questions. Like, be feral. You get a United States senator sitting next to you on live camera. Grill the dog shit out of them. God, it's so annoying. Grill them. Hold them to the fire. Do not let them leave. If they leave, it tells you everything you need to know. And then you go on for 30 minutes and be like, well, he didn't answer this, so we can all just safely assume that fucking warmonger, this and that, and whatever. Puh. I just, some, I don't know what to think in some of these instances, But that's almost 40 minutes. I'm just tired, and y'all saw me how I got last night. I was like so tired. I passed out right after. I wake up at 5:30 in the morning, and I work in the sun all day. Okay, so it's like right now it's 8 o'clock, and I'm just gonna relax and watch some stuff and go to bed here soon. But I guess just keep things simple and keep your ideals simple and close to what you know is true. And if anybody ever comes across somebody like Lindsey Graham or Ted Cruz, who are war mongers, like that word is thrown around so much, but have y'all ever seen Iron Man? Okay. You remember what the first bad guy was? He was called the Warmonger. Okay. And why was he called the Warmonger? Not just because he was a big iron suit. It's because the bald guy, the character, he wanted Tony to continue war. He was a warmonger, and Tony was anti-war. Okay, so that's why they call him the warmonger. And one of the most simple questions you can ask is, are you pro-war or anti-war? And go from there. See what people out there are on one side or the other of that specific simple subject. Because war is death. War is hunger. War is reset of civilization. Okay? War is, it's just terrible. So whatever we can do to avoid war, I'm with. Okay? All right. Y'all have a good Tuesday. Whatever the fuck.